Hello everyone, welcome back. In the last section, we introduced the concept of emotional labor. One way to manage the effects of emotional labor is by increasing your awareness of the gaps between felt emotions and emotions required by your jobs. What am I feeling? And what do others feel? These questions form the heart of the emotional intelligence. Then, what is emotional intelligence? Now, we will have a look at the definition and important components of emotional intelligence. How important do you think emotional intelligence is at work? You may have different answers to this question. What does the research evidence say about it? Emotional intelligence is a person's ability to perceive emotions in the self and others, understand the meaning of these emotions, and regulate his or her own emotions accordingly. From the definition, we can see three building blocks involved in developing a high level of emotional intelligence. That is self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. Specifically, perceiving emotions in the self is self-awareness. Understanding others' emotions is social awareness. Directing his or her own emotions in a positive way when needed is self-management. How important do you think emotional intelligence is at work? You may have different answers to this question. What does the research evidence say about it? Emotional intelligence as a research topic is controversial and not wholly accepted by scholars. Several studies suggest that emotional intelligence plays an important role in the job performance. For example, one study showed that students who were good at identifying and distinguishing among their feelings were able to make more profitable investment decisions. From an overall perspective, research studies 11 U.S. presidents from Franklin Roosevelt to Bill Clinton and evaluate them on 6 qualities: communication, organization, political skill, vision, cognitive style, and emotional intelligence. The key quality that differentiated the successful from the unsuccessful was emotional intelligence. Of course, although the understanding of emotional intelligence in organizational behavior is progressing, many questions have not been answered. For example, what emotional intelligence may predict and the reliability of emotional intelligence testing. Have you ever tried to cheer yourself up when you are feeling down or calm yourself when you're feeling angry? Have you tried to distract yourself from whatever was upsetting you by thinking about something else? If so, you have engaged in emotion regulation. The central idea behind emotion regulation is to identify and modify the emotions you feel. As you might suspect, not everyone is equally good at regulating emotions. Yes, emotion regulation is influenced by the regulative resources people have at their disposal, such as personality, beliefs about emotions, and knowledge of emotions. Individuals who are higher in the personality trait of neuroticism often find their moods are beyond their ability to control. Individuals who have lower level of self-esteem are also less likely to try to improve their sad moods, perhaps because they are less likely than others to feel they deserve to be in a good mood. Workplace environment is another important factor that has an effect on individuals' tendency to employ emotions regulation. In general, diversity in work groups increases the likelihood that you will regulate your emotions. For example, younger employees are likely to regulate their emotions when their work groups include older members. Racial diversity also has an effect. If diversity is low, the minority will engage in emotion regulation, perhaps to fit in with the majority race as much as possible. If diversity is high and many different races are represented, the majority race will employ emotion regulation, perhaps to integrate themselves with the whole group. Although research findings suggest a beneficial outcome of emotion regulation, there is a downside to trying to change the way you feel. Changing your emotions takes effort, and as we noted when discussing emotional labor, this effort can be exhausting. Sometimes attempts to change the emotion actually make the emotion stronger. For example, trying to talk yourself out of being afraid can make you focus more on what scares you, which makes you more afraid. The strategies people employ to change their emotions have attracted lots of interest, both in academic and practical areas. We will talk about 5 major emotion regulation techniques and explain how these techniques modulate the intensity, duration, and quality of emotion. One technique we have covered in the last section is surface acting. It is literally putting on a face of appropriate response to a given situation. Because surface acting doesn't change the emotions, though, the regulation effect is minimal, and the result of daily surface acting leads to exhaustion and fewer organizational citizenship behavior. Deep acting, another technique we have covered, is less psychologically costly than surface acting because the employee is actually trying to experience the emotion. Research shows that emotion regulation through deep acting can have a positive impact on work outcomes. For example, a recent study in the Netherlands and Germany found that individuals in service jobs earned significantly more direct tips after they received training in deep acting. Emotional suppression is a suppressing initial emotional responses to situations. This response seems to facilitate practical thinking in the short term, but research shows that frequent expressive suppression may be dysfunctional, as it can result in diminished control of emotion and personal functioning, memory, well-being, and greater depressive symptomatology. For example, when you attempt to suppress tears when you are sad to prevent yourself from becoming even sadder, you are using emotional suppression. Cognitive reappraisal involves reframing the thinking on an emotional situation, which is one way to effectively regulate emotions. Cognitive reappraisal ability seems to be the most helpful to individuals in situations where they can't control the sources of stress. For example, after a friend makes a critical comment on you, you become worried that your friend no longer wants to be your friend, but you can remind yourself that you're jumping to conclusion and one critical comment doesn't mean the end of your friendship. This reappraisal can change the way you're thinking about the situation. Mindfulness, the practice of being present in the moment, also has been shown to increase the ability to shape our behavioral response to emotions. Social sharing, or venting, is to regulate one's emotions by opening expression of emotions. Social sharing can reduce anger reactions when people can talk about the facts of a bad situation, their feelings about the situation, or any positive aspects of the situation. In fact, whether venting emotions helps the venter feel better depends very much upon the listener's response. Therefore, if we are going to vent to a coworker, we need to choose someone who will respond sympathetically. By so far, we have learned several important strategies to regulate our emotions. In the next section, we will have a look at how to apply concepts about emotions and moods to specific OB issues. And then we will learn how to enhance employees' emotional intelligence through a case study of Google. Thank you very much for your watching. See you then.